We don't know which land, which heart, and which decision is good for us, but we believe that good is in what Allah has chosen for us.
But the grandeur of life is that attempt. It's not about that solution. It is about, being as fearless as one can and behaving as beautifully as one can under completely impossible circumstances. It's that makes it elegant. We are already born. We are going to die. So you have to do something interesting that you respect in between.
This day, I went on a road trip with friends without really knowing where we were going because I didn't ask any follow-up questions. But when we stopped on the road for some tea, we saw these really cute camels in the back of a truck and asked to take photos of them when the owners told us that they were on the way to a camel race. So naturally, we decided to follow them to the camel race. Afterwards, we drove to the mountain to hike and we saw some more camels on the road, stopped for food, and were joined by even more camels as we watched the sunset from the dunes. It was spontaneous and lovely and a day I'll always remember. But most days look like this. Or this. Or this.
I have no idea how these things work.
And aren't as memorable. But the routine, the mundaneness, the ordinariness is just as special and important. I've always felt like everybody else could do a lot more than me and quicker in a day, a week, a year, whether it be projects or errands or the amount of social activities other people can balance or, the bigger life milestones that come with their own types of external expectations. And I had to accept that it doesn't matter if that's true or not. My pace is my pace, and where I am today is exactly where Allah put me today. So actually, it's perfect. And on the harder days, I try to tell myself that if I do nothing that day except pray my 5 prayers, it was a success. There's no race. There's nothing to prove. The fear of missing out is useless. And the realization that actually I have no desire to keep up is so liberating. And if anything, it just makes me more present in what I'm doing and how I feel today. I'm more aware and grateful for simple pleasures throughout the day, like having my morning coffee in complete silence or sleeping in fresh sheets. And in this climate, sometimes it feels like a day with no news is a good thing. And the boring days are the most necessary. It's when the most work gets done. It's when self-esteem is being built, which, by the way, should not be confused with self-confidence because self-esteem takes work that can't be faked. And it's the mundane days that make those random, spontaneous days possible even. But they're all part of a full life. The key is to just be more present in your own life. If your own life doesn't feel real enough to you, that's a problem. Because I think in the creator economy, it's easy to think of yourself as the person living or the person consuming, when we should all be living, and it shouldn't look like the next person. Because the truth is, there's not a single piece of content on the internet, whether it be a video or photo or essay, that is 100% raw and authentic. If somebody thought to share something publicly, then it is immediately at least 1% less authentic, me included. And right now it feels like there's so many influences feeding us what we should like and think and do and buy, and it's easy to forget how exciting it is to discover new things about yourself for yourself, but that requires you to be present in your own life more than you're present anywhere else. Like, you have to be a little out of touch. And I love the feeling of being out of touch, not in a self-centered, like I don't do politics or owe anybody anything way, but in a way where it's almost uncool, but not to you, because you decide what cool is for yourself.
I feel like your 20s is a cycle of trusting your gut until you gaslight yourself enough to not know if you can trust it, to gaining it back briefly, then losing it again. Like, it's an endless cycle, at least for me. I don't know.
Hi guys, Shahd of the future here. I had to step in because this next clip is a bit unhinged, because the way I had this thought and it made perfect sense in my head. But there is absolutely no correlation between what was going on in my head and what was portrayed. But it's kind of funny, so I'm gonna keep it. Basically, all I was trying to say is that you should trust your gut and be nice to yourself, but for some reason, it was very difficult to convey. And it's kind of funny because, okay, light flex. I literally gave a TED Talk about this topic. And I kind of fumbled the TED Talk because I was nervous and I forgot what I was trying to say. So this is literally like something I should know. I should have a very cohesive way of saying this, but for some reason I didn't. But it's kind of funny. Maybe if you understand me, if you are my type of person, if you are like me, you will understand me. But if you're not, you might think it's a bit insane because I sound like it's just a bit unhinged, but I'm gonna keep it. In conclusion, trust your gut, be nice to yourself, don't take on a voice of like your biggest critic, your arch enemy. That's all I was trying to say. Okay.
I have this theory, hear me out. I love going through journal entries from like years ago. Like it takes a while for me to be able to reread something because I feel like if I read something from like last week, I'm like gonna cringe. But if it's from years ago, I'm like, okay, that was just a kid. Also, I have bad memory, so I get to like relive things. Which, by the way, document everything. Like write as much as you can. If you're not a journaler, try your best. If you're not consistent, try to be consistent. Even if you're not consistent, like you will always thank yourself. Anyway, I was going through this old entry and then I also found one a little bit later where I had a realization of that moment. I noticed that I do this thing where in one entry, it's two people talking to one another. Like one of the voices is quite sound and can intellectualize her feelings and is very just aware of the situation. And the other one, which is the one that when I'm writing, I feel like is my voice, because it can't be the other one, because the other one is much wiser. And if I was that wise, I would have made better decisions. I wouldn't have allowed myself to feel that way. I wouldn't have gotten to where I am, like that couldn't have been me. I'm not that smart. That can't be my voice. And then I'll read the later journal entry where I'm looking back, like I'm speaking about the past event in like a later time. I hope this makes sense and I don't sound insane. But the voice that I take on in that entry is aware that the voice that I chose in the past was wrong, but it was the one that I chose to run with. I'm still not taking on the wiser voice. It's just a voice that's a little bit smarter than the other voice. But because I acknowledge that that voice was wrong, how do I know that that voice was wrong? And how do I know that the voice that I'm taking on right now is right or wrong? Like, which one is actually me? Do I know nothing or do I know everything? I don't know. But I do know that intellectualizing your feelings and stopping at just that does nothing except for ruin your life. But my theory is that the wiser voice is probably my gut. And the other voice is my arch enemy that unfortunately I'm more familiar with. And I feel like that has been the theme of my 20s. Like when we rewatch shows because we have a comfort character that we love, and it's often because they're kind of dumb. Like they keep making the same mistake and not learning from it and messing up. And it's because they can't be smarter than they are at the moment. And if they were, it would be really, really annoying. Like imagine if every single time they messed up, they let you know that they messed up and they let you know that they know how and why they messed up and why it's bad for them. But then they continue to do it. Like that would be really obnoxious. But that is what I do when I journal. And it's really annoying. Also, it's like really mean because I expect myself to be at a destination, but you can't be at the destination on the way at the same time. Like you can't have it figured out while you're figuring it out. It doesn't work that way. I feel like your 20s is a cycle of trusting your gut until you gaslight yourself enough to not know if you can trust it, to gaining it back briefly, then losing it again. Like it's an endless cycle. At least for me, I don't know. But I do know that the reality is that I needed to trust my gut from the very beginning. There's this analogy that you might have heard before, and it's canary in a coal mine. And it refers to like early warning signs, early indicators of danger. Because back in the day, coal miners used to take canaries with them when they'd work because they breathe quicker than humans, right? So they'd breathe in the carbon monoxide quicker than humans. So when the birds stopped singing, the coal miners knew that it was dangerous and they needed to leave. And that was like the first early warning sign of danger. In this analogy, the canary is your gut. And not to be dramatic, but if you don't listen to it, the entire world feels dangerous. Which is why, like, when I look back at old journal entries are just memories in the past. And like, I was so extreme. Like, my emotions were so extreme. I took things so personally. Like, everything was so dramatic. So dramatic. And it's fine. It's like funny to look back on. And I'm sure I'll look back on where I am right now in that way. Actually, hopefully not, because now I know that that voice is probably, well, I don't know, it's just a theory, but I think that that voice is my voice. But this might also be me intellectualizing that I know that. I don't have a conclusion to this. It was just a thought. Also, living like that is so bad for your cortisol levels. I'm trying to take my health and hormone health more seriously. I always want to say more, but I feel like next time.